appointments are lined up.
You waiting for somebody in there?
Got an appointment.
And it's not about what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
It's not personal. It's strictly business. It's time you and me had a private talk, Winger. Step into my office.
It's Step Into My Office with Michael Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi, we'll see you now.
Brock Purdy, it's not personal, but for the first time, it turns out he is not AI, he is not a robot or a machine. Brock Purdy is human. He finished the game yesterday, their first loss of the season, 12 of 27 for 125 yards, a touchdown, had his first interception of the year, his first regular season loss as a starter for the San Francisco 49ers. Did see two of his key weapons go down in the game. Michael lost Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey at key points, still awaiting MRIs for their future. What should Brock Purdy take away from this loss? If he's sitting down at the desk right now, how are you informing him that he should respond?
Well, that was the best defense other than yours that you're going to see all year. And you led the team back, had them in a position to win the game. You fought through adversity. I was proud of you. I thought you did a hell of a job. Everybody's counting on you to throw 4 picks and lose the game. I know the weather was hard. I know the wind was challenging, but I thought you did everything you could do, and I think you reinforced yourself to your teammates. And now I think you can really take command of the team and take ownership of the team because it's on your shoulders. Whenever you lead a team back and put them in position to win the game, especially with limited amount of time left on the clock, you're going to endear yourself to your teammates. This is one of the problems Mac Jones has in New England. Every time the game's close, no one has confidence he's going to be able to win the game. You do. And I think that's really important. And I think you should use this game as a measuring stick. You can't go this long without playing well. You got to kind of regroup yourself. But the mental toughness you're going to get out of this game is going to take you really a long way. And just know, there will not be a better defense than you're going to face in terms of pass rush, in terms of man-to-man coveraging. And the weather, it's probably not going to be any worse based on the wind. So learn from the game, move forward.
Yeah, this next week at Minnesota, you're in a dome. You don't even worry about any weather. Step forward. No Mac Jones in the office today because in my mind, he is beyond repair at this point. Somebody who is our guy Jalen Hurts, who had another uncharacteristic performance. 3 interceptions for him in the Eagles' loss to the Jets. First time in franchise history that the Eagles have lost this matchup with New York. What does Hurts need to hear to improve, to regain the MVP thought process that we have had about Jalen Hurts?
Well, I think, Jalen, what you have to kind of do is just not personalize it, right? Is, this. We're in the betting community, and we understand that, that there are times when you're on the road, you haven't played your best. You're 9-13 against the spread on the road since 2020. So you're going to have some of these days. You just can't make them worse, right? You just can't make them worse. You can't turn a pick over in the last 2 minutes. And you know this, we got to score in the second half. The biggest mistake we made in this game was our inability to score in the second half. If we put anything on the board, we're going to win the game. And I think you can get that back. But I really believe that this will be a learning experience for you as you go forward. And I think you should nail it down more on the road. I think there's something going on when you go on the road to have this kind of ATS number when you're a road favorite now. So I think ultimately that's something you can work on. And you got to get the run game. And another thing I would really urge you to do is try to avoid some of these hits. You're running the ball almost 10 times a game this year. Your numbers aren't as high. They're not as high as they were in 2021. And I think you got to be careful because remember, last year you did get hurt. And if you get hurt with this offensive line, the way it's playing because of the injuries, that can be a problem for the team. So, look, the key for you is come out the second half, got to play faster, and we got to start playing better on the road. Yeah,
I threw MVP out there. He probably would have and should have won MVP last year had he not been injured and missed those last couple of games of the regular season. Now, instead of Big Blue, it's been Big Bad for the New York Giants and Brian Daboll in year 2 of his head coaching career. After winning Coach of the Year a season ago, a 1-5 start for the Giants. They had 2 possessions at the goal line against the Bills, one at the end of the first half, one to close out the game, neither of which resulted in points for them. 0 for 5 in the red zone yesterday. What's different about this year and the coaching job for Brian Daboll? What does he need to hear today?
Brian, I know you really well, and I feel like you're wearing your expectations on your sleeve. Like I get a sense of desperation from you when I watch you coach, not courage. Last year, I thought you were under control. I thought you had everything that you wanted was happening, and you were calm. Look, nobody can be like Belichick in terms of how you coach and the style. You have your own way of doing it. But what we could all learn from him is to understand that you have to think, and you have to be calm to think, and you can't overreact. And your behavior on the sidelines, to me, is a little bit too emotional. I feel like you expect the team, because of where you were last year, you're kind of expecting it to get back there this year. Be a little bit more analytical. Take some time. Step away. You're trying to rush everything through. And now you're starting to yell at everybody, and you look out of control. And the team looks to you. Every team looks to their head coach to see if he's under control, to see how he's behaving, to see how he's reacting. And when you panic, guess what happens? They panic. And that's what I see. And you can't do that. You can't do that. You got to stop that. I know you want to get this turned around, but it's not going to turn around with a win. It's not going to turn around with a first down. It's not going to turn around with a bad call. It's going to turn around with consistency. And I think you got to get that back. I really do. And I think you got to start behaving in a more calm manner and think about the game, not react to the game.
And whether this is reality or not, at least for me from the outside looking in, it looks like he's playing the blame game a little bit too much. Like, yeah. I'm not the problem. You guys are the problem. Let's fix X, Y, and Z. Like, take a little bit more ownership on yourself and let's get this ship turned back around. How about Deion?
I kind of agree with you, Stormy. That's a great point, because I think the coach of I think it's gone. I said this about the Giants. They have that disease of me going on with them. And I think a little bit of it is there too. I mean, like, I won Coach of the Year. I know what I'm doing. No, wait a minute. You have to prove yourself every year. Every year you got to prove yourself. And you're reacting not in the best interest of your team.
How about Deion Sanders? They had a massive lead against the Stanford Cardinal this past weekend, led 29-0 entering the third quarter, end up losing in double overtime 46-43, the 29-point comeback, the largest in Stanford football history and the worst loss, blowout, blown lead in Colorado's history. How can Coach Prime rally the troops? Because there was a lot of I and me in his press conference this week.
Yeah, I think that's got to stop. I mean, you're now part of it. You're no longer just a franchise or a brand. You're part of the Colorado team, and they're your teammates. And if you start to talk I and them, no matter how popular, no matter how big your brand is, you're going to lose your leadership culture, and you can't do that. Look, here's the reality. You're going to need to learn these things as you go along. Nobody prepares himself to be a head coach until you're actually on the job. And I think ultimately you will learn. But you can't run tempo when you're up. Right? It's like at some point during the game, you got to figure out who's the opponent. Is it the clock or is it Stanford? And so when you could slow the game down, you got to slow it down. I know it doesn't fit your style. I know it doesn't fit who you are. But I think sometimes we have to be more adaptive. And I think you should learn from this. I think you should embrace it. I think you should basically take it on your shoulders and say, look, that's on me. Because the coach loses a 29-point lead, not the players.
We'll talk about that game a little bit more when Mike Pritchard, former Colorado alum, joins us as well. Last one here, Derek Carr threw for 353 passing yards, but the Saints offense only had 13 points against the Texans. He said post-game, the yards are great, but I couldn't care less. I just want to win. Well, they haven't, dropped 3 of their last 4 games. What does Carr need to do differently to turn the stats into W's in the win column?
Hey, Derek, you got to stop throwing checkdowns. Like, I mean, you say that the stats don't mean anything, but you're getting all these completions and they're not going anywhere. Like, we got to finish the game in the red zone. You got to make plays in the red zone. And when you get a chance to move around in the pocket and you're out of the pocket, you got to make a play. You just can't throw the ball away. Like, they're looking on you. They brought you in here to give them more juice in their offense. And frankly, what you're giving them is completions and no points. You're playing on a team that has a really good defense. So that whole excuse that you had your entire career in Las Vegas was, you know, you're a great player. All you need is to get with a great defense. Well, now you're with a great defense. They did a great job on C.J. Stroud. They gave him his first interception, even though they turned it back over on the fumble. They played well, stopped the run game, got you the ball back with a chance to win it. You got to stop throwing checkdowns. You got to make plays. That's what you get paid to do, make plays.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.